Well, welcome. It's very nice to have you guys here this morning at VegFest. My name's Anuj Shah, and I'm one of the sponsors of VegFest, and I am on the committee for the Vegan Society of Peace, and I'm a lawyer by trade, and I've been a vegan for almost 25 years. So I've been invited to talk. I spoke last year as well, and this is our third annual VegFest. So basically, I guess I was just going to talk about what is VegFest, why we're here, and what veganism is, and why it is that we do stuff. So yeah, that was my first slide. The first slide was welcome to VegFest. So welcome. This is the third annual VegFest. I'm just going to kind of ask a couple people, if you don't mind, if you're not shy. I mean, why are you here? Like, what draws you to VegFest? Did somebody twist your arm? Did somebody say, come over here, or I won't talk to you? Or are you veg curious? Is anyone here vegan or vegetarian, kind of going that way? Or anyone want to say? Anyone care to say? Whatever it is, I really welcome all of you here today, because you know what? You really could have been anywhere, right? It's Saturday in the summertime. You could have been curled up in bed. You could have been out doing something in the outdoors, but here you are. And it's really cool that you're here, and I appreciate your being here. And I really hope that this festival today is something that's exciting for you, and you'll learn a lot. I can tell you that festivals like this have changed a lot of people's lives. You know, there's dozens and dozens of people who are responsible for VegFest. This is the third annual VegFest. And why do people do this? You know, it's a labor of love. Nobody gets paid for any of it. And for each of us, we have our own stories. I know that a conference like this, a festival like this, or sometimes a conference or something has changed a lot of people's and transformed a lot of people's lives. And we're so inspired that we want to be here to share information with you and really, you know, provide information that's not available in the mainstream. So I guess I have a PowerPoint I wanted to go through a little bit, you know, but I want to talk, and kind of we can make it interactive too. It's nothing formal. Really, I don't want to keep it formal and, you know, like another drudgery PowerPoint we're looking at. But it has some really good, some facts and figures, and, you know, pictures worth 1,000 words. So maybe we'll get started with that if we could do the next slide. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, like how I got into this. So I know I've said once or twice here already that I've been vegan almost 25 years. So why go vegan? In a really short nutshell, what happened to me was I had no interest in any of this at all, like none. I was really interested in my health, and I used to work out all the time, and sadly that's gone by the wayside the last couple of years as business has gotten more and more crazy, but which is a good problem to have. But anyway, that's a different issue. But I would, you know, really read all this, you know, standard corporate news about what was good for my body and what was healthy and all this, and, you know, you had to have your protein, and white meat was good for you, this and that, and I was all down with that. And you know, I'd had some exposure to people telling me about, you know, the way animals were treated in slaughterhouses, or there were alternative ways of eating, and I never really cared about that. I said, I'm not interested, go away, don't talk to me about that. And in fact, 2 weeks before I went vegan, some of you are maybe a little bit newer to the concept, but you know, some people may know about veal calves and how horribly they're treated, and they're one of the worst treated animals in the industry. And I was eating veal 2 weeks before I went vegan, and a friend of mine was sitting at this table trying to tell me, you really shouldn't eat veal. You know, those veal calves are treated really cruelly. And I didn't want to hear him. I said, go away, shut up, just let me eat my food. And it was really interesting. I really was that uninterested, and I used to, in high school, be on debate teams where I would be on the anti-vegetarian side, because I thought vegetarians would just eat sprouts and lettuce all the time, and who wants to eat that, right? But then one day I came across this book called Living Health. It was Fit for Life Part 2. So for a couple of the kids in the audience, you may not know about that one, but for some of the people who are a bit past their 30s and 40s, you might remember in the mid-'80s, Harvey and Marilyn Diamond wrote a book called Fit for Life. And this was Part 2, and I was reading this book, and I still remember February 27th, 1989. I was a teenager, and I was reading this book. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I came across the chapter called Animal Products. And you know, you're reading this book, and it's talking about health, and you need enough sleep, and get your exercise, and get your oxygen, and all this sunshine, and all this stuff that's very commonsensical, but just made so much sense, right? And then this whole chapter on animal products, I don't know what happened. Some seed must have gotten planted somewhere, but it totally transformed my life. And right then and there, I said, I'm never putting another animal product in my body. And I remember thinking, you mean that chicken sandwich that I had this afternoon at such and such restaurant with my friends is the last meat I'll ever eat? And I thought, yeah, I guess so. And it was kind of miraculous for me, because I know for most people it's a transition and it takes them time and whatever. So that's how it happened, and that I did for health reasons. But then within the next several months, I came across some other literature about the destruction to the environment from animal agriculture and the way animals are treated in slaughterhouses and, you know, things like that. I read a book called Diet for a New America, which was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize by a guy named John Robbins. That book came out in 1987. So some of it may be a bit outdated, but he's still alive and writing wonderful books. And he's the heir to the throne of the throne, or whatever, The Empire of Baskin Robbins. So that's John Robbins with 2 B's. So anyway, that book transformed my life, and I've been vegan ever since then. So here we are, and so, for example, why go vegan? Why are we putting on a festival like this, right? Well, so one reason, as I talked about, is health. And I think everybody's concerned about their health. For the most part, I think most of you who are here at this festival, to some degree, most of you are probably concerned. You know, nobody wants to be obese and have diabetes, and whether it's in your family or not, or heart disease. And, you know, there was an article just yesterday, actually, I should say, in the Houston Chronicle, saying about how the Affordable Care Act, you know, the Obamacare thing, is really not that affordable for a lot of people. For people who have lower incomes, it's really not going to be that workable, apparently. When you look at deductibles and when you look at the premiums, a lot of people won't be able to afford it. So do you really want to do preventative care and eat right and take care of your body now, or do you want to just eat junk, and which, you know, a lot of us here, and you'll hear physicians and stuff later in the day too, talk about equate that more with animal foods and really take care of your bodies. And so, you know, health is one big reason. Like I said, that's how I got into it. So we have some playful sides, but, you know, don't be a carnivore, a carnist is what one theorist calls it. Let's be a vegan. So health for women, health for men, I think is the next slide. Yeah, these are real pictures. This guy, I mean, it's not like they're fake pictures, but I just mean like we got that off the vegan bodybuilding website, this guy. So I'll just say for the record, I don't look like that. So not all vegans look like that, but you have a better chance of looking like that if you're vegan. And of course, kids, let's get kids active. You know, there's such a huge childhood obesity situation in our country now. So let's kind of avoid that left side, and let's get people on a plant-based diet. So, you know, people who solely focus on meat, dairy, and eggs tend to live a shorter life. Vegans live a long life while savoring delicious vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, and healthy tofu. Just for the record, you don't have to eat tofu if you're vegan, okay? It's not that big a deal, but it's a fun food, and it's very versatile. And there's a book called The Tofu Cookery that I got in 1989, right when I went vegan. And you could make vegan ice cream and vegan meatloaf and everything with tofu. It was kind of pretty cool. But anyway, so there you go. And, you know, a lot of people like the taste of their meat. And frankly, I eat this stuff too. I think it's great. You can get tofurkey. I think they're one of the sponsors of the festival, actually. And you can get tofurkey sausage and tofurkey turkey and slices to put on your bread, just like regular, you know, animal meats. And, you know, these are just, we're not promoting these products necessarily, but just some examples of things you can get. You can get vegan everything, by the way, nowadays. If it's doable, you can pretty much get it vegan, 99.9% of cases. And then Dr. T. Colin Campbell, a lot of people may know, he wrote a book called The China Study, and that was the largest nutritional study done in history, I think. He worked with, I think, a sample of I don't know, how many hundreds of millions of Chinese people or something like that. And they found that animal foods, especially dairy, causes cancer, like the casein, the milk protein. The protein in cow's milk actually flips on the cancer switch. And he says here, there's a link between our protein and the development of cancer and heart diseases, and with further proof being located in casein, a protein found in milk from mammals, that is the most significant carcinogen we consume. I'll tell you a personal story about that. Somebody in my extended family, female, got diagnosed with breast cancer. And actually, she was actually a vegetarian. So, you know, being vegetarian is nice and everything, so people think as long as we don't eat the animal flesh, we're fine. She got breast cancer, and I told her, I said, look, you gotta go vegan, just go on a plant-based diet. 4 months on a plant-based diet, the cancer disappeared, and the doctors couldn't detect it in her body, and they couldn't believe it. And they're like, and I said, well, you know, okay. Anyway, of course, she's a human being, and so she says, well, great, now I'm cancer-free. So then she went back to eating dairy, and then she was diagnosed with cancer. But I've seen this with my own eyes. And who said vegans are weak, right? Look, vegans come in all shapes and sizes, but just saying, there's a website called veganbodybuilding.com, and that guy in the middle wrote a book called Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness. Or vegan, isn't that right? Bodybuilding and fitness. And the guy on the left, Kenneth Williams. The guy in the middle is Robert Cheek. The guy on the left is Kenneth Williams. He's a famous vegan bodybuilder as well. And this is Alicia Silverstone. I don't think she's a bodybuilder, but she's a pretty healthy woman. And she's written The Kind Diet, and she was on Oprah too. So just all kinds of amazing people out there doing great things who are really healthy on a vegan, plant-based diet. Next, environment. So I mentioned it very briefly a moment ago. Another reason that a lot of people are very inspired to go on a plant-based diet or be vegan is the environment. And people don't make this connection. The United Nations did a study, issued a report, and the World Watch Institute, I think, followed up with it or something like that a few years ago. 51% of all greenhouse gas emissions are caused by animal agriculture. Just think about that. That's more than all ships, cars, motorcycles, planes, trains, boats, buses, everything combined. So you can drive a Prius, and I think that's great for people to want to do that. And I used to drive a Prius, and you can ride your bike and whatever, but you eat one steak and you essentially throw so much of that down the drain. And there's lots of facts and figures that you can find, and there's a radio show, which I wanted to mention later too, called Vegan World Radio. It's here in Houston. Houston is one of the few cities on earth that has a vegan radio show. And I'm one of the hosts of that show, by the way, and there's several of us who do it. And we've had quite a few shows on this topic, and we spent the whole hour talking about facts and figures. Huge amounts of destruction of topsoil, water resources, fossil fuels, just for animal agriculture. It's a highly inefficient system. I'm not ready to just recite all kinds of facts and figures and stats right now, but I'm happy to talk to people about it and, refer you to references and resources. But, for example, factory farms are bad for the environment, and, your gardening or, plant-based, agriculture is good for the environment. It's a lot less destructive. Next, please. And the environment and nature are our greatest resources, and we need them for our lives to be better, healthier, and happier. Okay, next. Are we going to be able to play this video? It's just a quick 1 minute, 60-second video or 70-second video.
The animals we raise for food produce huge amounts of manure. In fact, these industrial animal factories that are primarily used to raise animals for food in the developed world need to store these feces in huge acres and acres of cesspool, which they euphemistically call lagoons. These, of course, befoul the air around them, but also release large amounts of methane and also huge amounts of nitrous oxide. These are released not just from the lagoons themselves, but also when these feces are spread over the huge amounts of cropland that must be used to raise plants to feed the animals. Nitrous oxide is about 300 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. When it comes to methane, about 37% of the world's methane emissions come from animal agriculture, and about 70% of the world's nitrous oxide emissions come from animal agriculture. These gases, which are produced in smaller quantities than carbon dioxide but are far more powerful, have a huge effect. And because their power, and because they come mostly from animal agriculture, it makes this sector of the economy important to target in any effort to address this serious global crisis.
That's just one tiny example. I mean, we've done a vegan radio show, and we're going our 12th year now. There's a tremendous amount of research, just all kinds of magazines and books and all kinds of stuff out there, websites, so couldn't possibly in a few minutes cover the enormity of this situation. But just to give you a taste, that's one little aspect of it, but I think I read somewhere that the animals that are raised for food create 120 times more manure than the human population, for example. What are we doing with that? It just pollutes, just like Dr. No More there said, the environment and lakes and streams and soil and that kind of thing. Now, of course, this is very near and dear to a lot of our hearts, the animal cruelty thing. I think most people, they did a survey once a couple years ago on a college campus, and they asked college students, would you...
Hello, everyone. We're having
Hi.
outside for the children. You would enjoy badminton and soccer, so please go to the back and enjoy these activities. Thank you.
They were asking these college students, do you feel like perpetrating cruelty on animals is something that you would favor, something like that. I don't remember the exact question, and 98% of them said no. And yet, it's so interesting, we have these cognitive dissonances, right? So we don't want to perpetrate cruelty on non-human animals, or human animals for that matter, I would think. And yet, when you look at what's on your plate, for most people, most of the time, it's nothing but cruelty, right? So, won't get into too much graphic stuff here because we could spend days talking about this. Here's just a quick little video that kind of gives you just an idea. A few seconds may be tough to watch, but just I think it's kind of worth looking at.
Oi! I wouldn't do that if I was you, son. I'm processed meat, pork, chicken, bones. Well, the rest you probably don't want to know. Your arteries won't thank you neither. Ever been locked up? Well, I was born in prison, me. An awful place that was, I can tell you. Too hungry to care, are you? Suit your f***ing self then. Go on. I told you so, didn't I?
And of course, here at the festival, we would say choose vegan. That's what this festival's all about. And that's just a very tiny sampling. If people have the stomach for it, these things are difficult to watch, but you can go to something like YouTube and just type in undercover slaughterhouse footage or animal cruelty footage from, slaughterhouses or factory farms, and you'll see countless videos like that people had to go undercover to take. And so a lot of people look at that and say, why do we need to participate in that, right? Is that the way I want to live my life? And I know it's a difficult situation. This woman up front made a good point. I know that there's pressures from society and friends and family and that kind of thing, and those are some real things that we deal with as well. But it's just, again, just an idea to sort of think about. And what's exciting about this festival is we have resources here, all kinds of booths with great food, and people have literature, and, and again, there's resources. Other people are going to be talking later to talk to you about how to have a plant-based life. Diets full of flesh foods, dairy, and eggs perpetrate a tremendous amount of cruelty and suffering on our fellow sentient beings. A vegan diet is the ultimate expression of kindness and compassion. And this little, the thing here, it might be hard to read. It says, how could it ever be to our purpose to rob another living being of his or her purpose? And that's Dr. Will Tuttle, who wrote a beautiful book called The World Peace Diet. And Dr. Will Tuttle's been here in Houston. We've interviewed him on our show a few times as well. But anyways, there's so much we could say about the animal cruelty issue and everything. But, just to give you a flavor of the kind of things that really do touch people's hearts, it's an issue. I think nobody now, well, maybe now, but when we were all going vegan, when I went vegan in 1989, I didn't even know what the word vegan was. But most of us who've done it up until now, nobody was born vegan, right? Nobody just pops out of their mother's womb as a vegan most of the time. Now, actually, there's some people now who are born vegan, which is great, but that's kind of a new thing. So somewhere along the way, we all come across information somehow, whether it's at a festival like this or through friends or family, watch a movie. There's some amazing movies out there now. There's one called Earthlings. You can watch it for free. It's difficult to watch. It shows you what happens in a slaughterhouse, but it's a beautiful, grimly beautiful movie, beautifully done, and it really will transform your life. All right, so world hunger. This is something also like the environmental thing, it's not intuitive, right? People may look at an animal and realize the body part of the animal or the fluid or the secretion of the animal ended up on his or her plate. Maybe somewhere you think there's a connection, if you want to think about it, about with the cruelty or a slaughterhouse. But the environment, people don't normally think of that, right? Like if I eat a steak, I'm going to use 5,000 gallons of water or whatever it is. Or compared to just a few gallons of water for vegetables. And the same with world hunger. People aren't necessarily clear about that. But for example, if you just have 1 acre, with 1 acre of land, you can produce all kinds of vegetables and plant-based foods, whereas you need 2.5 acres just to produce 1 cow. And the amount that a cow can feed a family would probably just be a couple weeks compared to all that. There's a lot more stats on this. When I read Diet for a New America, I don't know if this stat is still current, if it's shifted a bit. I know John Robbins mentioned that if people decrease their animal consumption by just 10%, that would free up enough grain to feed 60 million people. So it's really interesting because the amount of acreage, of land, of rainforest, of all kinds of resources that are used to produce animal agriculture, it's a very inefficient system. You can actually produce a lot more with a lot less on a plant-based diet and then have 80 to 90% of grains grown in this country, at least soy and corn and oats, are grown to feed the livestock. Why would we feed it to livestock so people can eat that? That's so inefficient. And instead, feed it to people. And what's kind of sad? 1 out of 6 people in this country are food insecure. Is food insecure. That's kind of devastating for the richest country in the history of the world. A single quarter-acre garden that is tended to and helped to grow and prosper can feed a family of 4 most of the year, if seasons were taken into account, while a single cow could only feed a family of 4 on a meat-only diet for at most 2 weeks. And the water it takes, this kind of gets back to the environmental argument too, approximately 2,500 to 5,000 gallons of water per pound of beef. I've seen figures as high as 12,000 gallons of water per pound of beef. That was something by a Swedish institute several years ago. I didn't have that handy. 240 gallons of water, however, for a pound of all these vegetables. So that's, 5 to 10% of the same of water. And so overall, living a vegan lifestyle increases your longevity, improves your health and vitality, shows kindness and compassion to the animals with whom we share the earth, and protects our environment for future generations. And I want to say, I appreciate more people have been trickling in as I've been talking. And at the beginning, there were just a few people, and I wanted people to sort of get up and stretch and kind of, get a little bit more excited and everything. Because, the morning time, and I guess it's kind of dark in here, and I don't want it to be like a dirge and an environment in here. I know this is difficult stuff to, sometimes process, but we're also here as a festival. We want everyone to celebrate life. We celebrate life, and I want everyone to feel like there's a lot of hope, because there is, and that's why you're here. You're here because you're open. You're really amazing people to be here, right? I mean, you're not here just because you're here. You're here because of something. Maybe somebody dragged you here, and that's okay too. But you're open people. You want to learn. You want to expand who you are, and it's really, I commend you and acknowledge you for being here. And I want you to really have a great time today at the festival. And I'm happy to answer questions in just a minute, but just for the next couple of slides, just want to tell you what's going on at the festival today. Well, okay, so today, there's a lot of different sponsors, and there's all kinds of food here. And you got vegan dog food, and you got people with, all kinds of stuff. And then these are the speakers. There's that Yahoo at the bottom left. And then there's Dr. Baxter Montgomery. He's our vegan cardiologist here in town. Amber Callahan, she's a fitness trainer. Dr. Clune is a philosopher as well, and he's going to talk about the humane meat issue. I think that's something that comes up. People think, well, if the animals were raised okay, isn't it, kind of kindly, is that not okay? And he'll talk about the issue with that. We got some entertainment. Kristen Leohanian, who's our president and founder of the Vegan Society of Peace, she'll have something to say. She's going to be on the panel with me later on the Vegan 101 as well. And then we're going to have, people doing food demonstrations. And of course, there's kids activities. So for those of you who have kids, I saw some kids back there. There's another one there. There's going to be a fire truck, and there's going to be a kids yoga demonstration and a kids food demonstration just a little bit, I think. I don't know this. And then we're going to have yoga demonstrations for adults as well. And we're going to have live music. I don't know what happened at the top there. I think when we converted the file to a different type, the pictures at the top didn't come through. But anyway, we have all these different people doing live music, live bands outside. And just to say, so I said a lot of stuff, and I also know that I talk fast, and I kind of have to keep remembering, try to slow down, but I get excited about this stuff, and there's so much to say, and there's only 10 million books out there. But this one here, My Beef with Meat, just came out, and I think, if I understand right, it hit the number one spot on the New York Times bestseller list just a couple weeks ago. But Rip Esselstyn is Caldwell Esselstyn's son. Caldwell Esselstyn is a physician who's treating, for example, Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton has now gone vegan because of that, and for the information that Dr. Esselstyn shared, and he's very famous. And then Rip Esselstyn is a firefighter from Austin, and he's been doing this Engine 2 diet stuff, and now he's got this book. And then there's a book for kids down there, Vegan is Love, and then Becoming Vegan. And there's a lot of books. If you just go into Google and type in vegan recipes or whatever, you get a lot of information about that. So a lot of really good resources. And some movies too. I was talking about Earthlings there. Food Inc. isn't a bad place to start. It's a little light compared to the other ones. Forks Over Knives is great. You've got T. Colin Campbell, like I was mentioning earlier, Dr. Esselstyn, and a few people in there talk about the health effects of eating animal foods. And how, when you go on a plant-based diet, all these diseases that people have, we think are just natural. People just think it's natural to get a quintuple bypass surgery, or it's natural to get diabetes, or natural to get heart disease, or natural to have atherosclerosis, or natural to have, massive amounts of cholesterol, and natural to take 50 types of drugs to lower your cholesterol. It's not true. I haven't taken one pill in 25 years ever since I've been vegan. And I'm not saying it's a panacea necessarily, but you don't have to live that way. So yeah, and I'm happy to answer questions, and I really want to keep it light. I know a lot of what I had to say is kind of serious, but I want to say vegans have fun. We celebrate life. You should listen to the show. We air Tuesday evening, 8 to 9, every Tuesday on 90.1 FM. And we try to talk about all kinds of things. We talk about food and recipes. We talk about the environment. We talk about health. We have physicians on answering questions. We've had Dr. Baxter Montgomery on. We have people talking about the ethics of what happens in slaughterhouses, or circuses, or whatever it is, because we're just trying to provide information and education to people till, most people are here because they want to live a better life, however you define that. And I think that's great that you're here. And I would be delighted to answer questions if anybody had any, or open up for a little bit of discussion. On the radio station, what station? 90.1 FM, KPFT, every Tuesday evening from 8 to 9 Central Standard Time. It is. You can go to kpft.org and do the archives. And veganworldradio.org, I think, is back up and running. So. Yeah, we're all doing it on a shoestring. Nobody's getting paid, so I think, KPFT definitely is always up, and Vegan World Radio, our webmaster, he gets to it when he can. But I'm happy to address your issue if you like a little bit, and then if other people had. So some people walked in later, but this woman up here was saying, hey, I'm interested, and I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but a lot of people say, look, I want to do this. I want to go vegan. I know the facts. A lot of people listening to our show are in this boat, right? Look, we've heard your show for 12 years now, 11 going on 12 years. We know why we should go vegan. We know it's horrible for the environment to eat animal foods. We know it's horribly cruel, but I don't know how to do it. How do you do it, right? And so we're going to talk about that in the Vegan 101 thing, and I could talk about that for days. How do you do it? I mean, it's actually pretty simple. But to answer your particular concern, it's like, you have family pressures, you have social pressures. What do you do? One trick that I do, for example, is I've started doing this a few years ago. I mean, I'm still learning too. I've been vegan almost 25 years, and I'll come up with little new things all the time. But it's it's a joyful way to live. But what I'll do is if I know, for example, I'm going out with friends, well, I'll find out where we're going. And nowadays, in the age of the internet, just go online and find out what's vegan at their restaurant. Pull up their menu and look. And you'd be surprised. Some of the larger restaurants actually have FAQs. I don't want to promote any restaurants here, but they'll tell you allergens, what has dairy, what's vegetarian, what's vegan. That's a good thing to do. I guess it depends on how you are about it, which sounds very abstract. Going on 25 years for me, I've never once had anyone, I'm just so resolute about it. I'm just so deeply, deeply committed to it. Nobody's ever told me, well, you really shouldn't be vegan, or have you considered making an exception? So I don't know, everybody's in a different place. But if you're really committed to something and you share your commitment with people in a loving way, people get it. And actually, I usually have most people say, well, I want to make sure we have something for you. I just got a call the other night. This friend of mine was throwing a party. She's like, I want to make sure you're coming because I want to make sure to have a vegan dish. So I don't know, maybe most people aren't as supportive. I'm not sure. But I think sharing information with people is always important. Say, this is what's important to me. I've learned about, this X, Y, and Z, and I don't want to, I'd like to live a plant-based, have a plant-based diet. I'm taking care of my health. I've got cholesterol issues and diabetes runs in my family. I've also learned about the cruelty to animals, things like that. But do you have a more specific question or situation you're dealing with? Everybody has such a different dynamic with their family and friends. Claudia, if you don't mind. So Claudia is saying, so what if you get invited to a function? Your friends or family invite you, and what do you do about that? Because most of the time they're probably not going to have something vegan. What I've always done is I just always very politely tell people, hey, listen, I'm so glad you invited me. Thank you so much. I just want to let you know that I'm vegan, and absolutely no obligation to you. Please don't go out of your way to make me anything, but I am vegan, so I will come, I'll enjoy your company, and I would love to see everybody, but I may not eat anything there. And you know what? People are amazing about that. They're great. They're like, no, are you kidding me? We're going to have salad and we're going to have fruit and I'll make you this. And I went to a New Year's party a few years ago. These people didn't know the first thing about vegan. But they actually went to the store, and I told them not to. I said, please don't go through any trouble. But people, you'd be amazed how much people want to do that. They want to be accommodating, and they want to learn. Most people want to learn and expand and enjoy life and learn new things. And they bought me this soy cheese and made me a soy pizza. I mean, I was like, soy cheese pizza, I was like, really? And you don't have to you can do rice cheese, or you can do daya, which is tapioca cheese, but just saying, this was a few years ago, people are really cool about that stuff, and I'm not asking them to do it, and I'm not, but people actually are so much more open than I think we give them credit for. So that's a good question. That's been my experience. I just kind of politely say, listen, thank you for the invitation. Don't be offended if I don't eat anything, because I'm committed to a vegan diet. And nowadays, when I went vegan in 1989, I'll be honest, people are like, what, vegan? But now I think people are hearing the word. Now, some people think vegan, oh, that's those crazy hippie people, who get blown away by the wind because they're so damn weak. But I think a lot of people are getting educated now. I've gone on 25 years, as I've said about 100 times, but I just think it's amazing. It's been so long, and it seems like 2 seconds. But last I checked, I'm pretty healthy. I don't take any pills. I don't take any medications, and nothing. 25 years ago, I haven't popped one pill. And last I checked, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't think I'm about to fall over that I know of. Maybe you can see something that I don't. But anyway, so I don't know if that helps you, but communication, I guess, is the bottom line. What I would want to say is just being loving in your communication with people and just saying, this is what I'm committed to. And, friends invite me out to dinner, and I usually just say, hey, if you don't mind, I may just eat a little something beforehand because I'm vegan, and I'm not sure how many vegan options that restaurant has. Or I don't know if that's an ideal solution. I'm not saying any of this is 100% easy 100% of the time. What I will say is when you're deeply committed to something, and your friends and family and people who love you get that, they will support you in it. And people who don't support you in it, I can't tell you how to live your life, but I personally think, do you want those kind of people in your life? It's not like you're doing something bad. I would say the opposite. You're doing something good. You want to help the animals. You want to help your health. You want to help the earth. How can that be a bad thing? And you tell people I'm committed to X. And I do that. I've got friends who are kosher. I've got a couple of friends who are Orthodox kosher. I want to make sure every time that I'm involved with them that we go somewhere that they can eat. It's just out of respect and, honoring their system. And of course, that's a different issue. That's religion, and it's not a personal ethic. But I'm just saying, if people truly are friends or care about you, I think that they'll they'll be open to honoring that. That's my experience. Yeah, and so Claudia is saying, and you did mention that, right, so she ended up bringing something to them, and you can do that, yeah, absolutely, and I should have mentioned that. Just say, hey, you know what, thank you for inviting me. If you'd like, I'll be happy to bring something. And people are great about that too. Sure, bring whatever you like, you know? So, I think it's all about communication and how you are with people about it, and I don't think people want to, nobody wants to be lectured to. It's like, well, you're an awful human being, so I'm going to bring my own food. No, but thank you for inviting me, and you know what, this is my commitment, and if you like, I can bring something or whatever, I think it's about the communication. That's kind of my experience. Any other questions? You're going to have a doctor, a physician come in just a little while, and he's going to talk about heart disease and all that kind of stuff. I'm not an MD. I can talk about my experience. Of course, my background's in philosophy and law and that kind of thing, so you probably don't have any philosophical questions. But I don't know if you have any other questions. I'm happy to talk to you about it, like how do I do it or whatever, and if not, that's okay too. I'm just really happy that you guys are here. I welcome you here. I really hope you stay for the festival for a few hours. There's all kinds of entertainment, great food, great booths. I've actually got a booth too, although it's not going to be as fun. Mine's a legal booth, but as the other booths. But someone has a question here? Yes, ma'am. So the woman on, closer to the front here has said that she hasn't seen the movie Earthlings, but she really recommends this movie Vegucated. I recommend it too. I saw that. It's about only 75 minutes long. It's a great movie about this person in New York who decided, a sociologist or something, decided to do a study. She got 3 vegans off of Craigslist, not vegans, she got 3 people off of Craigslist and asked them to go vegan for 6 weeks just to try it. It was a guy and 2 women. It was an older woman who was a psychiatrist, a younger woman who was a Honduran, of Honduran origin with her family. So that was a good, you would enjoy that because she was dealing with her family. What's that? You see it, yeah, so just dealing with her family dynamic, coming from a Latin background where a lot of people are very meat-based, and a guy who, I forgot what he did, but he was sort of a semi-professional kind of guy. And it was a very interesting movie, and it covered all these topics in a very light and very, still informative way. So thank you for making that suggestion. Any other thoughts or questions or comments or anything at all? No? Well, I appreciate your being here. It's really been nice. I wish we'd, had a huge audience, but I know it's early in the morning and, people are still kind of getting out of bed, but we're here till 5 o'clock today. So have a really great VegFest, a really great festival today, and really hope that, you take something away from here that really makes a big difference for your life. So thank you.